You're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Lipakshi Khurana. Coming up in the next 30 minutes. India's Vice President Jagdeep Dhankhar to visit Islamic Republic of Iran to pay condolences on the tragic demise of Iranian President Ibrahim Raisi, Foreign Minister Hossein Amir Abdollahian. U.S. Secretary of State Blinken says he'll work with U.S. Congress on potential ICC sanctions as Israeli forces raise parts of Gaza's Jabalia, hit Rafah with airstrikes. Campaign for the last two phases of India's parliamentary election in full throttle. Leaders of various political parties to hold campaigning rallies. PM Modi to hold election rally in Uttar Pradesh and Delhi. Well, on to the details now. The death of Iran's President Ibrahim Raisi leaves Tehran's power brokers with new decisions to make. Not just who to support as the next president, but who should replace Iran's supreme leader when he dies. That's because Raisi was the one most analysts believed would be trusted to hold Iran's top job. Stuart Smith has more on where the frontrunner's sudden death leaves those succession plans.
Iran's supreme leader is the country's most powerful job. He controls the armed forces and directs foreign policy. Raisi was most often cited as the nation's most likely successor when Khamenei dies. The supreme leader talked favourably of him, and he himself, like Raisi, was president before taking on the top role. Now that plan, if indeed it ever was the preferred course of action, is dashed. Academics and experts are divided on who the next most likely candidate is. Frequently suggested is Khamenei's second son, a mid-ranking cleric called Mujtabor. But modern Iran has a history of rejecting hereditary rule. The Islamic Republic was founded in opposition to the monarchy that preceded it, and those close to Khamenei suspect he's against taking the country back to any system that resembles that. But historically, Iran is used to hereditary rule, and it's not uncommon in the region, prompting some academics to conclude expectations of resistance to such a move are overblown. Khamenei's son, Mujtabor, comes free of the unpopularity that started to be associated with Raisi due to his handling of COVID-19, the sanctions, corruption and repression. But Iran watchers suggest the fact he is largely unknown by citizens and that his popularity has never been tested means an appearance of authentic support may be hard for him to develop. Either way, Raisi's death means the restart of political power games amongst Iran's ultra-conservative hardliners, not just for the presidency, but the eventual supreme leader as well. Stuart Smith in Baghdad, reporting for DD India.
And India's Vice President Jagdeep Dhankhar to visit to Iran on 22nd of May to pay condolences on the tragic demise of President Dr. Sayyid Ibrahim Raisi, Foreign Minister Dr. Hossein Amir Abdollahian and other Iranian officials in an unfortunate helicopter crash on 19th May 2024. On Tuesday, India declared a day of official mourning in honor of Raisi. President Draupadi Murmu and Prime Minister Narendra Modi have conveyed their condolences to the government and people of Iran. An update on Israel-Hamas conflict now. Fighting has been raging around the far southern city of Rafah, the last area to face a ground operation. Fierce combat has also been reported again in the northern Jabalia area, where Hamas forces have regrouped. Israel said it has returned to North Gaza, where it had claimed to have dismantled Hamas months ago to prevent the terrorist group that controls Gaza from regrouping. And U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken has suggested he will work with lawmakers on potential sanctions against the International Criminal Court as its prosecutor seeks arrest warrants for senior Israeli officials. Blinken told a congressional hearing that he was committed to taking action against the profoundly wrong-headed decision. His comments come amid a Republican push to impose sanctions on ICC officials, which may see a vote as soon as this week. The United States is not a member of the court but is backed backed previous prosecutions, including the ICC's arrest warrant for Russian President Vladimir Putin over Russia's Ukraine conflict. And the head of the World Health Organization called on Tuesday for Israel to lift restrictions on aid into Gaza, saying that the primary pipeline for emergency medical aid into the enclave from Egypt had been cut off.
Crossings from Egypt into Gaza have remained closed for 2 weeks, cutting off the primary pipeline for emergency health supplies into Gaza. All over Gaza, the impact of incursions and evacuation orders are being felt. We urge Israel to lift the blockade and to let aid through. WHO has prepositioned some supplies in warehouses and hospitals, but without more aid flowing into Gaza, we cannot sustain our life-saving support to hospitals and the population.
Well, the United Nations has planned new routes within the Gaza to transport aid from a US-built floating pier after crowds intercepted 11 trucks, causing a halt to deliveries that continued for a third day on Tuesday. Operations began on last Friday, and 10 aid trucks were driven by UN contractors to a World Food Programme warehouse in Dar el-Bala in Gaza. But on Saturday, only 5 trucks made it to the warehouse after 11 others were intercepted. According to the World Food Programme, distribution of aid was paused as the UN planned new routes and coordination of deliveries in a bid to prevent more aid being intercepted. While the Pentagon has meanwhile said that new routes for the movement of aid in Gaza had been created after some aid trucks had been intercepted by crowds, adding that aid was now moving from assembly areas to warehouses in Gaza.
Aid will be delivered to the floating pier, then transported via logistic support vessels, delivered to the causeway, and then put into assembly areas on shore. And that's where NGOs pick up that aid and then further distribute it. So to my knowledge, there's no stoppage. Again, as we mentioned, this is going to be a crawl, walk, run approach, and you're going to see those numbers increase in the days ahead.
Well, France has backed the International Criminal Court in the fight against impunity. It comes after the court's prosecutor sought an arrest warrant for Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Hamas leaders for alleged war crimes. DD India correspondent Ross Cullen reports for more from Paris.
Well, after the announcement by the International Criminal Court in The Hague, France gave an interesting response. It released a statement from its foreign ministry, and I'll read you just a little bit of what that said now. France condemned the anti-Semitic massacres perpetrated by Hamas. This terrorist group has claimed responsibility for barbaric attacks against civilians, acts of torture and sexual violence, which Hamas itself has documented, broadcasted and celebrated. Then the statement went on to say that concerning Israel, France has been warning for many months about the imperative of strict compliance with international humanitarian law, and in particular about the unacceptable nature of civilian losses in the Gaza Strip and insufficient humanitarian access. France supports the International Criminal Court, its independence and the fight against impunity in all situations. Now you contrast that response with the reaction from the United States. President Joe Biden said it was outrageous, the announcement from the International Criminal Court. There are areas where allies like Paris and Washington are working together, for example, on the need to get urgent humanitarian assistance to Palestinian civilians in the Gaza Strip. But this does also point out that concerning the Middle East situation, there are also differences between some of Israel's allies. Ross Cullen in Paris, reporting for DD India.
Well, the prosecution and defense have both rested their case in Donald Trump's hush money trial, marking the beginning of the final stages of the historic case. Closing arguments are set to take place next Tuesday, and then the jury will go out for deliberation. The former president did not take the stand in his own defense, despite repeatedly saying he would so. He has pleaded not guilty to 34 felony charges. DD India's Sally Patterson has more from New York.
Well, the jury has been dismissed for now in this historic hush money trial in New York City. They've been told to come back next week when the fate of former President Donald Trump will be in their hands. On Tuesday, we saw the final witness take the stand. That was Robert Costello, a lawyer who at one time advised Michael Cohen, a key witness in this case. It was the second day of testimony from Costello, and on Monday he found himself at the receiving end of Judge Juan Merchan's scolding because the judge said he had rolled his eyes and muttered under his breath. Behavior, the judge said, was unacceptable. In fact, the judge told him, "I'd like to discuss proper decorum in my courtroom. You don't give me the side eye and you don't roll your eyes. Do you understand that?" Well, better behavior from that lawyer on Tuesday, who was the defense's final witness. Then the defense rested its case, just as the prosecution had done earlier this week. The defense only brought 2 witnesses into this trial. The prosecution brought 20. Those included Michael Cohen himself. He's the one who alleges that Donald Trump knew all about the $130,000 payment made to Stormy Daniels, an adult film star, ahead of the 2016 presidential election to keep quiet about an affair she said she had with the former president. Trump has always denied that ever took place. We also heard from Daniels herself. She talked the jury through, sometimes in quite graphic detail, a sexual encounter she said she had with him back in 2006 in a Lake Tahoe hotel room. Again, he denied that ever took place. Now the jury has to weigh up the arguments on both sides of this historic case. It's the first criminal trial against a US president in history. And then they'll decide unanimously which way they are going to lean. Donald Trump has pleaded not guilty to 34 felony counts. He continues to call this a witch hunt, politically motivated, a scam, a sham, being orchestrated by his political opponents to try and keep him off the campaign trail and inside a courtroom instead. In New York, I'm Sally Patterson reporting for DD India.
And French President Emmanuel Macron will travel to the Pacific island of New Caledonia on Tuesday, just over a week after riots erupted in the French overseas territory. Speaking after a cabinet meeting, French government spokesman Prasar Bharati said Macron would travel to set up a mission. The French government also announced that it would send hundreds more security personnel to join the 1,500 law enforcement personnel already on the ground. Meanwhile, the first Australian government flight left New Caledonia on Tuesday, heading to Brisbane after evacuating people from the French territory. New Zealand also sent a government plane to evacuate nationals from the territory. The violence broke out early this month over the French government's plans to amend voting laws, which would allow more recent arrivals to vote in provincial elections. An Oscar-winning Italian director, Paolo Sorrentino, returned to the Cannes red carpet on Tuesday to premiere his latest film, Parthenope. Sorrentino was joined by actors Celeste Dalla Porta and Stefania Sandrelli, who play this young and adult versions of the film's titular character and Cannes veteran, Gary Oldman. It is Sorrentino's 7th feature to be selected for the official competition at Cannes, and he won the Academy Award for Best Foreign Language Film with his 2013 film, The Great Beauty. The film is one of 22 titles competing for the coveted Palme d'Or prize. And now let's take a look at other stories making news around the world. Elvis Presley's Graceland estate could be up for auction after an alleged foreclosure. Graceland is a popular museum and tourist attraction that pays tribute to Elvis Presley. As his fame was growing in 1957, Presley bought Graceland for a little over $100,000. The mansion became his home for 20 years before he passed away there, aged 42 in 1977. Madame Tussauds London unveils the first ever wax figure of famous actor Timothée Chalamet. The famed musician and tourist attraction says it took expert artists 9 months to create the figure. The 28-year-old American-French actor, who shot to fame for his varied roles in film including Little Women and Dune, is known for his edgy red carpet style. And still to come in this edition of DD India Live. Supreme Court rejects review petition against Article 370 verdict. Heavy rain brings relief to farmers and locals from the scorching heat as it lashes several parts of Kanchipuram in Tamil Nadu. And in a big fight, Rajasthan Royals will take on informed Royal challengers Bengaluru in eliminator today in Ahmedabad.
As India decides in the world's largest election,
we help you feel the pulse of the nation.
I am Sakal Bhatt.
I am Shubhendu Ghosh.
This election season, join us on a journey of India.
We are in Assam. This is the tea city of India.
From down south, Tamil Nadu.
Discover the colors of democracy.
Gateway to northeast of India.
Coastal state of Kerala. Watch Poll Pulse on DT India.
Welcome back. You're watching DT India Live. I'm Lapakshi Khurana, and now let's get you the latest on the world's largest democratic election in India. Well, the sixth phase of the general polls is all set to take place on May 25th in 57 constituencies. The sixth phase will cover 7 states and union territories. In this phase, a total of 889 candidates are in fray. In this phase, polling will also be conducted in Jammu and Kashmir's Anantnag-Rajouri Lok Sabha constituency. Last month, the Election Commission of India revised the polling date in the Anantnag-Rajouri Lok Sabha seat from 7th of May to 25th of May due to logistical, communication and natural barriers related to connectivity. The counting of votes for all polls will be done on 4th of June. And as campaigning for the sixth phase of general elections gains momentum, political parties get up to woo voters in their respective favours. BJP leader and Prime Minister Narendra Modi to visit Uttar Pradesh, where he will be holding rallies in Basti and Shravasti districts. Later in the day, Prime Minister to hold public meeting in Dwarka district of the national capital, Delhi. Senior BJP leader and Union Home Minister Amit Shah to visit West Bengal today, where he will be campaigning for the party's candidates in Kanti, Ghattal, Purulia and Bankura districts of the state. Senior BJP leader and Union Minister Rajnath Singh will be holding public meetings in Haryana's Karnal, Kaithal and Bhiwani. Bharatiya Janata Party National President JP Nadda to also hold 2 election rallies in West Bengal. Also, in order to garner support in party's favour, opposition is also holding election campaigning across the states to woo the voters. Congress leader Rahul Gandhi to hold public meetings in Mahendragarh and Sonipat district of Haryana. Congress leader Shashi Tharoor to hold press conference on important issues in connection with the Lok Sabha elections in Delhi. Well, as India progresses to its voting process, the impact of social media on its political landscape is more evident than ever. Ayushi Ahuja brings us a special report on how these digital dynamics are shaping the future of our democracy.
As India is halfway to its voting process, the digital battleground continues. Social media platforms have become a new frontier for political warfare, where every like, share and comment holds the potential to sway political opinion of the voter. Social media has transformed the political landscape, with parties and candidates battling for online supremacy. From targeted advertisements to viral content, every aspect is meticulously crafted to sway voter sentiments. But what impact does this have on electoral outcomes? This is what the voters feel.
On social media, whatever I see, I do tend to believe it, and I see where all of this is leaning towards, and my opinions are also scaled towards that.
Social media surely helps us out in letting us know that who is good, who is bad.
I have heard a campaign going on which is vote ka jawab, jail ka jawab vote se. So I heard it through the social media only.
On one hand, social media has revolutionized the way political parties connect with voters. Platforms like Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, and X, formerly known as Twitter, have become essential tools for campaigning, with parties and candidates leveraging them to spread their message, mobilize support, and discredit opponents.
If I open my Facebook or my Instagram today and I see something inflammatory or maybe even a fake news or a hate speech, and I'm voting in a few hours or the next day or the next week, it will have a direct impact on what I might vote.
If you are going by what people are saying online, then you might not be choosing the right candidates. You might not be going for the right thing because you're just swayed by what people are collectively doing.
If someone is in favor of something, then he will obviously show the good things of them, but then the other side show the bad things of them. So it's difficult to form an opinion.
On the other hand, social media raises concern about misinformation, hate speech, and voter manipulation. Fake news spreads like wildfire, making it challenging to discern fact from fiction. With millions of Indians active on social media, the stakes are high. Social media platforms can make or break a candidate's reputation, with online trends often translating into real-world support. Ultimately, the true impact of social media on election lies in our ability to evaluate information, holds power to account, and upholds the principle of democracy in the digital realm. With camera person Aniket Dubey, I am Ayushi Ahuja reporting for DD India.
And now let's take a look at other stories making news today. The Apex Court of India dismisses pleas seeking review of its judgment to uphold the central government decision to abrogate Article 370 of the Constitution, which conferred the special status of Jammu and Kashmir. A 5-judge constitution bench said that there was no apparent error in the verdict delivered. The Apex Court said Article 370 was an interim arrangement due to war conditions in the state. Heavy rain lashed several parts of Kanchipuram in Tamil Nadu, bringing relief to farmers and locals from the scorching heat. The state had experienced rainfall over the past few days. Fairly light to moderate rainfall accompanied by thunderstorms, lightning and gusty winds is anticipated over Tamil Nadu, Puducherry and Karaikal, Kerala and Mahe, Lakshadweep and Karnataka. And amid soaring temperatures in North India, the Indian Meteorological Department has issued a severe heat wave red alert for Punjab, Haryana, Delhi and Chandigarh, predicting that the heat wave to severe heat wave conditions will persist over the next 5 days. On May 23rd, heat wave conditions are also expected in some places in Uttar Pradesh, Himachal Pradesh, Madhya Pradesh, Odisha, Gujarat, Saurashtra and Kutch. Meanwhile, in the southern part of India, 3 districts in Kerala are under an extremely heavy rainfall warning, with IMD issuing a red alert. Amid continuous rainfall in several parts of the state government stated that emergency operations in all districts are active due to the possibility of landslides and epidemics. Also in Delhi, an extreme heat wave has caused an extraordinary surge in power demand this May, hitting the highest ever levels recorded. In response to the heat wave, the Delhi government instructed private and government-aided schools that had not yet commenced summer vacations to do so immediately. In sports, Rajasthan Royals will take on informed Royal challengers Bengaluru in eliminator today in Ahmedabad. A few weeks ago, a top 2 finish looked imminent for Rajasthan Royals as the side dominated the first half of the Indian Premier League group stage. But 4 defeats on a trot followed by the abandonment of its last home fixture meant the Royals could eventually feature in the eliminator against Royal challengers Bengaluru, which comes on the back of the 6 consecutive wins. Thus, it will be a clash of 2 teams with contrasting fortunes at the Narendra Modi Stadium on Wednesday, with both hoping to stay alive in the race to the final. However, RCB comes into the knockout encounter with momentum on its side, while for the Royals it will be a challenge to regroup and fix the weak links. All right, that's all for this edition of DD India Live. But let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on the DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code on the screen to download now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Lipakshi Khurana from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India Live.